In the Library is sponsored by Office Suite for all your PDF, document creation, and email needs in one place. Try Office Suite. Check out the description box for a link and code for 5% off all your Office Suite purchases. Welcome to In the Library. I'm your personal librarian, Bill Girardo. Recently, I attended a writers' conference, and one of the topics was what literary agents had to say about what makes a good story. So I thought I would make this video and talk about some of the things that the literary agents that spoke had to say about what makes a good story. So come on in, take a seat, and let's turn some pages. All right, so let's just start with some very broad strokes here, some very general thoughts. And that's starting with you want a story that connects with readers. And that's not just literally the story itself, the actual writing, but also you as the author want to connect with readers. And it makes it more personable, makes it more accessible to your readers. It makes them want to engage with you as an author and your writing more because they're interested in what you have to say. They're interested in what your characters are doing. So you want to be engaging with your readers um, on a personal level as people, but also through your writing. You want to be able to engage with your readers. Uh, Secondly, you want your story to be about a person, and you want that person to have a story that your readers are interested in following. They want to care about your protagonist, um, or even if it's your antagonist, uh, someone who's not very likable. You know, you can not like someone but still respect them. So if you can get your readers to at least respect your characters, then that goes a big way in having a good story. Conflict is what keeps the story going. Conflict is what keeps the story interesting, uh, keeps your reader interested. If there's nothing really happening in your story, then who cares? So you want to have inner and external conflict. Uh, that means there's some thing about the character themselves that they have to overcome in order to accomplish their goal. That would be the inner conflict. And the external conflict is some outside force getting in your character's way. And you want to keep that going and on some level or another throughout the story. And finally, the plot. You want a plot that your readers can really get into and sink their teeth into and sink their claws into. You know, a plot that's really interesting to them. Okay? And it doesn't matter what genre you're writing in, as I'll get to in a moment. Every genre has its own rules. So what that means for your plot is going to depend on what genre it is. Um, and your readers will know that, and they will expect you to follow those rules. Um, but within that, you want an interesting plot to keep your readers going. Okay, so let's move on to talk briefly about stakes or tension. Stakes are composed of what does the character want to accomplish, what's getting in the way of them accomplishing it, and when they do achieve their goal, what happens as a result of them achieving their goal. These are all part of stakes. And you want to have really good stakes or tension in your story. Just like with conflict would be the part of stakes that is preventing or causing trouble for your character to achieve their goal. You want to have that. And a classic way of achieving stakes and raising tension is fixed duration is usually a time limit. You know, your character has to do X before X amount of time passes, otherwise they won't be able to achieve their goal. I would say a good example, this isn't from a book, but it's a good example of time fixed duration, is John McClane in Die Hard. What is his goal? He wants to get home to his family for Christmas, which means he has to finish what he needs to do by Christmas Eve. Otherwise, he will have missed Christmas, right? Because Christmas Eve is a very, very specific time. And you're either on Christmas Eve or you're not. There's no leeway there. So that's a good fixed duration way of doing stakes. Another way of having stakes is some other conflict that if this specific thing happens, then the conflict goes into play and prevents your character from doing what they want to accomplish. Again, from movies, but it's a good example, in my opinion, is in Speed, you couldn't drive the bus more than 55 miles an hour. What happens when you drive the bus more than 55 miles an hour? The bus blows up and everybody dies. So this raises tension because they had to accomplish their goal without getting the bus up to 55 miles an hour. They have to keep it below that limit. So stakes are really important here. One last thing before I turn to briefly talk about the relationship between the agent and the writer is the genre of the writing. Every genre has a very specific structure to it. You know, a police procedural is going to look different from a romance novel. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a romance in a police procedural and you can't have police activity in a romance novel. Of course, you can do those things. But if the main genre of the piece is going to be a police procedural, then that's going to look different in structure than if the main genre of the piece is a romance novel. You know? And as I mentioned earlier, audiences know this. Your readers for your particular genre know what the rules are, and they're going to expect you to adhere to those rules. You can experiment a little bit here and there, but it's very, very rare that you're going to have success if you completely go against the rules of your genre. You know, one really good example of success in doing that is Tobey Maguire. Wow, no, Gregory Maguire with the Wicked series. You know, what is the genre here? The genre is fairy tales. And he takes a classic fairy tale, in this case, Wizard of Oz, and he plays with the rules of the fairy tale genre a little bit. And he's found success, you know. But you can't expect that to happen. Okay, before we wrap up, just one more brief topic to bring up, which is the relationship between yourself as the writer and the agent. So, the literary agents in this conference mentioned that agents are looking for projects that are 90 to 95% complete before they will take on the writer as a client. And by 90 to 95% complete, that means you want to be 95% of the way to the actual published book in terms of the writing and the editing and all of that. Of course, if you're an existing client of theirs, there's a little bit of leeway because they know your work ethic, they know your writing, they know the kind of work you do. But for new writers hoping to get an agent for the first time, agents aren't really going to look at anything unless it's 90 to 95% complete. So you want to keep that in mind. You also want to make sure yourself, your agent, and your editor, once the three of you have a relationship, are on the same page, no pun intended, because nothing's going to work if you as the writer are fighting with your editor and your agent over about what the project looks like and what you want the finished product to look like. So you just want to keep that in mind and don't submit to agents until you get to that point where at least somewhere around 95% of the way complete with the writing of and editing of the project. So, what are your thoughts on what makes a good story? Let's discuss down in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and comment. Please take a look at this website for all our ITL merch, including these amazing t-shirts. And take a look in the description box for the link to our sponsor, Office Suite, and get 10% off your Office Suite purchase. Thanks again for watching, and as always, please keep on reading.